What's going on, good people? We're going to go ahead and get this thing started. No more debating, no more playing. Hey, tap that like and subscribe button. Let's go.
Okay, y'all, this is it.
Well, let's not go ahead and keep this thing waiting. I got my partner, my main right-hand man, Mr. Glenn Graybeard in the building. What's going on, Graybeard? How you doing?
Man, what's going on with you, man? How you feeling?
Hey, man, you know how we get down, baby. You either get right or you get left, and we about to get these folks right tonight because we have a legend joining us tonight. None other than the legendary Bob the Greyhound Dandridge, man. We gonna have to talk to him about the nickname and just what was it like back in the day, man. You know what? We're not even gonna get into soliloquies. Let's go ahead and bring the guest of honor into the Birdcage and bring him on to the Perch with us, man. So, ladies and gentlemen, coming to you guys live right now, we have the NBA Hall of Famer, two-time champion, CIAA champion coming into the building. And rightfully so, the Virginia Sports Hall of Famer, Mr. Bob Dandridge. Welcome to the Birdcage, Mr. Dandridge.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome, and thank you for having me aboard.
Man, it's always great to have legends such as yourself just to take the time out of your schedule just to talk to us. And a lot of our grandparents and our parents got to watch you when you were ripping up the league back in the day. So we definitely are going to get into it with you today. So how are you feeling today, sir?
I'm doing great. Couldn't ask for any more.
Oh, man. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to let the folks know. So you're from the Virginia area and you attended Maggie Walker High School. What was it like growing up in Virginia, and what drew you to basketball before you got to the high school level, sir?
Well, I played most of the sports growing up: baseball, basketball, and football. I went out for the summer baseball team because I was getting ready to go to middle school, and the guy who was the basketball coach at the junior high, he also coached the summer baseball team. So I'm thinking I'm gonna get smart and I'm gonna go and play baseball. So when the fall came, the basketball coach would know me. Well, I went to play baseball, but the guy didn't play me at all during baseball season. So then came basketball season, and seventh grader. He didn't play me much as a seventh grader, so me outsmarting him didn't work. And so baseball was out. I was playing football, and during that time when you're playing sandlot football, if one guy tackle you, he'd hold you up in the air so everybody else could pile on. So that didn't work, and I left the football field and immediately walked to the basketball court at about 12 or 13 years old, and found that basketball was more to my liking than playing football, which was rough, and then playing baseball, which was in the summertime. So that's how I ended up choosing basketball over the other sports.
Now, speaking of football, now a lot of folks don't know this because it's a ton of talent that is just within that DMV Hampton Roads area, and just it's a beautiful thing. But you went to school, you were a couple of years behind, but you went to school with one of the greatest middle linebackers of all time, and Mr. Willie Lanier. What was that like sharing the hallways with him? Because you said you walked away from football, so I understand why, because you had Mr. Contact right there in the halls with you. What was that experience like, sir?
Well, again, you might have walked the halls with Willie, but you didn't walk anywhere near him, because he was bigger than everybody else then, and probably back during the mid '60s, this guy was lifting weights then, and very few high schoolers were lifting weights. And Willie grew up. We grew up about 3 or 4 blocks from each other, and he was always just a rugged guy, tremendous football player. A guy that you always had a lot of respect for. He wasn't a bully. He was a nice guy, but he was just a hard-nosed football player. And in fact, my high school, Maggie Walker, was more of a football school than basketball, and football was the sport that brought in the revenue that supported all of the rest of the sports at Maggie L. Walker High School. So and Willie was always a tough guy, but always a nice guy. So it was real special being able to see Willie play in high school, and even more so to be able to see him play at Morgan State.
And the crazy part about it was, when you look at the type of talent that was coming around, he had the football field sold up. You literally were on the basketball courts doing your thing back in the day, and you ended up getting a scholarship to the illustrious. I have on the t-shirt, ladies and gentlemen. I support my Southern Jaguars, but you know what? I got love for those folks over there at Norfolk State. My Atlanta Falcons benefited from Norfolk State with Mr. Ken Reeves. We'll get into that in a sec. But you won a scholarship, you get to Norfolk State, and what was that experience like with the recruitment process for you back in the day? And what made you choose to go to Norfolk State? And how was the experience when you first got to the school?
I chose Norfolk State because as a high schooler, Virginia Union was right there in Richmond also. And one day I was reading the sports page and I read about a school. Norfolk State was coming to play Virginia Union, and that Norfolk State was averaging 100 points a game. So I just had to see this team. And I went to see Norfolk State play, and they may have scored 105, 108 points that game. And I was just over the top excited about their style of play. I ended up at Norfolk State because I went to Virginia State on a visit, and I went to their their spring athletic event, and while the coach was talking to me in his office, he mentioned the word work steady. And that word stuck with me throughout the rest of my visit at Virginia State. So on the way back to Richmond that night, from the banquet, I asked my high school coach, what did that mean? And he said, work study means that you're going to have a job.
Oh
Hard
You're
man.
going to
work,
have a job
hard
while
work.
you're here. So that sort of automatically was the key word for any other recruiter that came in, and Norfolk State came in. And Coach Ernie Fields never mentioned the word work study. So that sort of put him ahead of everybody else. And during the visit to my home, he he was talking to my mother, and he said, "There are two things I'd like to get your permission on." And she said, "What are they?" He said, "One, that I have permission to reprimand him if he's not behaving the way you would want him to represent the Dandridge family." And she started nodding her head. And then the second thing he said, "Is it okay if he goes to church every Sunday?" And my mother
Hmm.
looked me in the eye and said, "You going to Norfolk State?"
If done, filled, and delivered.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. And I mean, this guy, my father was sitting in the room while he was talking, but at no time did he ever talk to my father. He talked to my mother the whole time.
Mm.
And I wanted to go to Norfolk State because I had met some other guys from Richmond that had gone to Norfolk State. I need to make mention that um, guy, this activist with South Africa, Randall Robinson,
Mm.
went to Norfolk State. He was with Trans Africa, and he was
Mm.
from Richmond, and he had gone to Norfolk State. And the other thing, probably one of the most illustrious athletes to ever come out of Richmond, Arthur Ashe, also went to Mag Walker.
Wow.
Mm.
And um, so just the city was just rich in athletics, and at that time, athletics were segregated, and I was in. I came along at a time of segregation,
Hmm.
and so there was the white all state basketball team, and then there was the black all state basketball team, and at that time, very few African Americans were going to play at major Division I schools unless you were from maybe New York, Philly, maybe DC. So the guys coming out of the South Virginia on down weren't getting Division I offers. I think Charlie Scott, when he went to North Carolina, he was one of the first.
Mm.
So me going to Norfolk State was part of the history of Norfolk State. Norfolk State was a winning team. And then just a lot of students out of Richmond, because our choices were limited, attended Norfolk State. And I really wanted to go to North Carolina A&T, but Coach Irvin saw a tape, not a tape, because during that time it was 35 millimeter film uh, on me, and he said I was too skinny.
Hmm.
So, and
Hmm.
then and then about 4 years later, he told me, he said, "Bob Dandridge, I'm only recruiting skinny guys from here on."
He should have
Uh,
gave you some bit. He should have gave look with all that good soul food they have in that North Carolina area, from fried chicken to biscuits and gravy. They could have put some of that stuff on a plate for you and got you there.
Good old
But
bowl
yeah,
it's
of
but
okay
gravy.
I
though.
said, once I saw Norfolk State play that up tempo of basketball, and the coach we had, this guy Ernie Fears, who was really out of Southern University. My coach was a product of Jake Gator out of Florida A&M,
Ooh,
and so
great
and
character.
my coach Ernie Fears
Mm-hmm.
was a mentee of the coach at Tennessee State at that time. You mentioned his name a few
John,
minutes ago,
John McClendon.
John McClendon.
Mm.
And so, and my junior high school coach was also had played for McClendon. So my whole basketball upbringing was, I would say, McClendon was the focal point of it because my best coaches, and I had great coaches, all attended camps or either they had played for Coach Mack. So my whole, and in fact, when I spoke at the Hall of Fame, one of the statements that I made was that I had never been coached by a white coach until I went to the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I learned from about basketball fundamentally came from African American coaches.
And this is, and I'm gonna let my man Graybeard tap in real quick. But before he does, so for those who don't know about the history of this here, here's the thing. So he mentioned Coach John McClendon. If you don't know anything about John McClendon, please do some research on that because he's one of the focal points in this country. He actually was taught by Dr. James Naismith himself out in Kansas with basketball. So Mr. Dandridge literally had access to the founding father of the game. And John McClendon won 3 NAIA championships straight at Tennessee State University from 57 through 59. And that was the first all-black team to win that tournament. So if you don't know much about it, look up Dr. Dick Barnett, one of the greatest fallback shooters of all time and players. But please do some research on that, folks, because the history of this game is so deep or whatnot for these legends that have come through. So, Graybeard.
First and foremost, Curry, it is truly an honor and a privilege to be able to talk to you tonight. One of my questions I have is when you were getting ready to play basketball, when you played pickup games at the playground, what type? How was it? Did you used to get bullied around a lot? Did they were surprised about the skill that you have? I mean, did you have a learn harden curve when you were trying to play the game?
I mean, when I was in the fourth grade, a short guy, we were out at recess one day and we was playing kickball and all that, and he said, "You tall, you ought to play basketball." And in the fourth grade, the guy took me over to the basketball coach court during recess, and from that recess time, I was in love with it. I mean, nothing else mattered. The girls, as I grew up, all that just didn't matter. And I developed a love and a passion for basketball when I was in like the fourth, fifth, sixth grade. I played it night and day. As I grew up, 14 and 15 years old, I rode the bus, hitchhiked across town looking for better competition because by the time I probably got about 16, I had leveled off as far as I was as good as anybody else who was like 18 and 19 years old in my neighborhood. So with basketball, I just traveled to play against the better competition, and it was just a passion, and it just took over. I became obsessed with it, and ironically, I'll take a leap ahead. That when I was at Norfolk State, uh, after my freshman year, I had a friend that invited me to come to Washington, D.C. to just play some basketball because there was better competition in D.C. than it was in Virginia. And so I ventured to D.C. and they were wondering who was this skinny kid coming out of Norfolk State. Well, by the time that summer was over, I had developed a legacy or a history or little rep in Washington D.C. at the age of about 19, and so and I traveled to Atlantic City. I traveled to Philly when I was young, visiting relatives. But my purpose for going was not to so much see my relatives, but to find better competition because better basketball competition was in the north, supposedly. But when I went through there, they had an opportunity to see a little skinny country guy, and and I made an impression on them. So I always was looking for the best competition. And as a young guy growing up, nothing came before basketball.
So when you say, speaking of up north, and you talk about the competition, I know you got to run into one of your foes as a young guy, and Earl the Pearl Monroe. We'll tap into that a little later. But you also talked about playing in New York. And when you were at Norfolk State, you had one of the best premier guards out of the city of New York in the backcourt with you at Norfolk State, just balling, Mr. Pee Wee Kirkland. Can you talk a little bit about Mr. Kirkland and what was it? What were the battles like between you two at Norfolk State when they say iron sharpens iron?
Well, when Pee Wee came to campus, there was a lot of opposition to him because he was a New York guy. And the New York guys are cocky and all that. And so what we did as far as conditioning at Norfolk State was we practiced 2.5 hours a day in the gym, but before that, we ran the stadium steps and we ran 4 miles a day.
Whew.
And so everybody just knew that this New York guy wasn't going to tolerate this and Pee Wee was going to quit. But out of 15 guys, Pee Wee Kirkland came in first every day. He came in first every day. And the coach tried to find some reasonings like, am I going to keep this guy on the team or whatever? But it wasn't his performance on the basketball court. It was just his discipline. He had a love for the game. He was in tip-top shape. And he put all his New York style of play sort of to the side, and he bought into our coach's philosophy. And that philosophy was that if you were the point guard, your job was solely to distribute the ball, advancing, and make sure the shooters had their hands on the ball. And I can honestly say Pee Wee Kirkland transformed his game and ran the fast break to the tee. He was a totally disciplined guy. And I need to say that when he came there, he was on the second team. He didn't come there as a starter. And even on the second team, he played hard every day. No back talk, not being disgruntled from being on the second team. And then 2 weeks before the start of the season, our starting point guard, a guy named Tommy Long out of Durham, North Carolina, broke his arm. And that gave an opportunity for Pee Wee to become the starting point guard. And to say even if he came off the bench, he would have had plenty of scoring time, but that shows how fate works. And I think that year we may have been 23-2 or some ridiculous record.
Gee.
And at one point during the month of December with Pee Wee running the point, we were averaging 110 points a game. We ended the season probably averaging like 102. We beat North Carolina A&T in a triple overtime tournament game. And I fouled out with about 36 points going into the third overtime. And me with my egotistical self, I'm thinking if we win this tournament, I'm the MVP. Well, in 5 minutes, Pee Wee done snatched the MVP.
So close.
Oh man,
So close.
so close, but no cigar.
And I'm saying you got 36, and if y'all, man, Pee Wee must have scored about 14 or 15 points in 5 minutes. And ironically, all the behind the back, the crossover, the double clutching that the coach wouldn't let him do during the season, he just let him go. And Pee Wee went stone Rutgers, stone New York City. And he was the MVP of the tournament, which was well deserved.
And
That
so
would have been a night to be.
now, ladies and gentlemen, so you guys know, I want to make sure I put this out here correctly, Mr. Dandridge. So understand this. Mr. Dandridge ended up when he literally has a career at Norfolk State, 727 rebounds, 1,664 points, and he averaged 32 points a game.
Crazy.
I'll say that again. He averaged 32 points a game. That man's jersey is in the rafters at Norfolk State. So again, it wasn't like it was a slouch that ended up getting that MVP. Mr. Dandridge also he's a CIAA champ, and we're gonna talk a little bit about the CIAA tournament because that's what I mentioned last year. Thanks to one of your rivals who's actually watching the show right now, Coach George Williams. So he tapped in with a comment. He says Bob was one of the best in basketball. He's also a great person. But Coach also said y'all used to have some wars back in the day when he was at St. Augustine too. So
yeah, but they ain't never win no tournaments or nothing.
I'm sorry, Coach. I didn't mean to set that one up like that.
Shot fired.
I think so.
And amazingly, although you just gave my statistics from Norfolk State, I'm still like number 7 on the all-time scoring list. I got some guys like Eugene Cunningham, Ralph Talley. All of these guys are in front of me because during that time, when I went to Norfolk State, my freshman year, I rode the bench. We played 32, 33 games that year, and I probably didn't play equivalent to 2 games.
And they got you on record for 10. They say they got you on record for 10 games, but I'm gonna listen. I'm taking it from you because you were the one that was on the bench, like you said.
I was sitting there on the bench moping and mad and looking evil. And after the game, the coach would walk right past me if I didn't exist. And I told him I grabbed him one day and told him I wanted to transfer. So he said, well, I'll check on that for you.
You ain't gonna let you walk out of the door.
No.
And look, and so 3 days later, I asked him, I said, well, did you check on that thing for me? And he said, yeah, I got some good news and some bad news. I said, well, what's up? He said, the good news was I checked, and the bad news was nobody wanted you.
Wow.
There was no
So
transfer portal back in the day, ladies and
that,
gentlemen. They
It
had to
was
stick it
not.
out.
Yep, they did.
and then, how was you gonna tell your mama you coming back home? Somebody got your room, somebody got your bed, so it won't know where to go.
Mm. Well, there was a place for you to go because you ended up getting the MVP from the CIAA tournament in 1969, and after you guys had gotten CIAA championships, and you guys are moving, and unfortunately lost in the tournament. You actually had somebody to give you a place to go. The Milwaukee Bucks in 1969 when they drafted you.
Uh-huh.
And
That was right. And but also the Kentucky Colonels from the ABA drafted me also,
mm-hmm.
and the scout, and they came from Kentucky to sign me because they just knew that I was gonna sign with the ABA. But I told the guy, well, look, I've just looked at the roster, and this looks more like the University of Kentucky's team.
Mm.
Dan Itzel, Louis Dampier. The only thing that was missing uh, was the coach.
Adolph Rupp.
The only thing that was missing was Adolph Rupp. So,
if Adolph Rupp would have been there, at that time before he integrated, you wouldn't have got picked up. At that time.
But you know what? It's interesting about sports and what sports does to people and the character that it builds. One of my greatest arenas that I've ever visited was Kentucky's Memorial Arena that was dedicated, that was the teams that Adolph Rupp played in.
Mm.
And I had an opportunity to go there about 24, 25 years old. And when I went into the building, I was just mesmerized because you could just feel the history of basketball in there. I mean, you didn't feel any racism. You didn't feel that. All you felt was this was a great building where some great basketball had been played. And I walked the stairs, I walked the hallways, and it was just a mesmerizing experience to go in that building. And no matter what his beliefs were, and that was at a certain time, but to go into that building was just mesmerizing.
So getting to your Bucks, because we're gonna talk about your NBA career too. At this point, so you get to Milwaukee. You got Kareem that's there. Oscar hadn't got there yet because he gets traded to you guys. When you got there, you averaged 13 points a game, 7 rebounds, 3 assists as a rookie that whole year. What was it like? What was the transition moment for you, like when Oscar Robertson showed up, and what was that like for you guys when he got there as a true point guard, and you guys were literally the big three? You might as well say that at the time.
Thank you.
Y'all were the big three. So what was that like being in a city like Milwaukee that had won a World Series in 1957, and now you guys are on pace to actually have a team that could win a championship? What was that like?
Well, when I first heard he was coming, I was trying to figure out how was I going to keep improving. Because, with the big O coming in there now, between Oscar and the big O, that's where the shot's going to fall.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt, playing in the CIAA Norfolk State, we were always in the championship. So when they were talking about NBA championship, I wasn't in awe of it because I had always played on championship teams. And I didn't know the significance of winning an NBA championship at that early age. But when Oscar came, like in training camp, it was like he was playing a game every practice. And I could see on his face his desire to win a championship. And that sort of struck home with me. But when I go back to guys like McGlendon, Johnny McGlendon, college coach Ernie Fears, junior high school coach Russell Williams, I had learned the fundamentals of the game. I could dribble left hand, right hand. I could shoot left hand, right hand layups. I could pass. I could play defense. So it wasn't hard for me to find a fit. And one of the first things I did, or Oscar and I developed a friendship right away. And I know he saw some things in me, and he saw some potential in me that I could be a good player. And for him, it was good for him because he had played with older guys, and now he was coming to a young team. Greg Smith, Lucius Allen, myself, John McLaughlin, Kareem, and he's with some young guys now. So he doesn't have to be the big O all the time. He could be Oscar sometimes. And I think that gave him a sense of comfort and a new lease on life. And especially coming to a city like Milwaukee that hadn't won a championship, and the Packers were still the big thing. Green Bay only 60 miles away. The Packers coming to the Bucks games. And the fans in Milwaukee was just fantastic. Again, for me, this was the first time I had ever been in an environment with this many white folks to go into Milwaukee. I had never seen nothing like this before. And then during the whole month of January and February, the temperature is 5 below.
Oof.
And but yet at 5 below, everything was still functioning. I mean, you still went out to the clubs, you still went out to the restaurants. So nothing really stopped. And probably if I had to live in, Milwaukee when I was there, I complained. No. When I first went there, I was just happy to be in the league. So I didn't complain for about 4 or 5 years before until I reached stardom. That's when I started complaining. But Milwaukee was just good for me as a young player coming into the league, and to have the privilege to play with a guy like the Big O, to play with Kareem, and Oscar might not get mad at me anymore, but Kareem is I think the greatest player that's ever played this game. I need to say that.
Yeah.
I
Ooh.
Okay.
mean, I don't care if you talk about Magic, you talk about Bird, you talk about MJ, you talk about Morant, you talk about LeBron, but to be on the court and see this guy throw that hook shot night in and night out. I mean, to see guys not want to come out the second half and face that hook shot.
Hey, Mr. Dandridge, you know what you know what you just did just now? So, ladies and gentlemen, before he finishes his story, he literally just killed all of our barbershop talk just now with the MJ and LeBron debates. Listen, this is the NBA Hall
Kareem.
of Famer that won 2 championships that
LeBron,
has killed.
MJ is.
And
Hey man,
remember,
he.
Kareem went up against Wilt in Wilt's prime and Wes Unsledge, your future teammate at that time. So, and Willis Reed.
Man, that man don't
And
fault everybody.
Exactly.
and you didn't name Nate Thurman.
Oh, I forgot. I didn't forget about
You
Mr. Thurman. I'm sorry.
you got Walt Bellamy. I mean,
Former Atlanta Hawk.
but
We know about Mr. Bellamy.
you talking about some true 7-footers
Mm.
that banged every night. And of all the centers we've named, just from a heart and a physical standpoint, the one person he didn't want to face was Willis Reed out of Grambling.
Good old Willis Reed.
He was a monster. Him and his rival Bob. And here's the thing. You know, I got to throw my Southern University guy up in there. Shout out and rest in peace to Mr. Bob Butterbean Love.
The butter.
Mr. Butterbean.
Butter.
He had Chicago by the throat before MJ had it, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh yeah. I mean, and you know, you know, I was fortunate to be in the and during that time, you had, I don't even know if there are any HBCU players in the NBA now.
No, it's not many at all.
It's not
Many.
It's a few. It's really, I'll be honest, it's probably just a handful at this point.
It really is.
Because most of them now, Mr. Dandridge, are overseas.
Hey, I mean, during our era, every team, maybe the St. Louis Hawks, because of prejudices, were the last team to pick up one. But when I was in the league, it might be a minimum of 2 guys from HBCUs that were on each team.
Man. But you know, we all say this about the sports world, and we're gonna transition to your championship performances, and we're gonna talk about your Bullets days too with my guy. And I say this: when you look at how the HBCUs were poached, like my grandfather, he went to FAMU, he went to the Army, he didn't finish, but you talked about Jake Gaither, legendary coach. He and Eddie Robinson are 2 of the greatest coaches of all time. 8 national championships apiece. I'm sorry, Eddie's got 9, Jake's got 8. So when you talk about it, those are the godfathers or whatnot. You mentioned one of your coaches was coached by him, but when you look at the values that you guys got, the teachings that you guys got from your coaches, it wasn't just athletics. They taught you how to be men and taught you how to handle society and how to conduct yourself. We're missing that now. We're missing that in this world now when you talk about a lot of the young athletes. There's some that still have those values, but the stuff that you guys had from consummate professionalism, you guys were socially active at the time because you talked about how segregation played a role in your upbringing at first. What really gave you guys the motive to be at the forefront of making it easier for young men such as myself and Graybeard when you talk about having those equal rights and some of the things we're facing today in society right now. It looks like all the work that you guys put in is getting ready to fall apart.
You know, it was the thing of throwing the rope back. You know, we advanced, but I guarantee you, we went back to our various schools of education, met with the students. We gave back materialistically to them, and we showed that up at the back at the places that developed us, you know, and that was something that we were taught, and I thought segregation was a big part of that. Like, you know, we learned how to survive in.
Uh-oh.
I think Mr. Dandridge, you froze. Well, we're waiting on Mr. Dandridge right now. We're going to get him back in a sec. When you sit back and look at it, let's see. I think he might be coming back on. We're still here. So I'm just going to wait here for a second. We're going to leave it up because he's going to pop up because I see the screen's loading. But when you look at the challenges that he's had from not just being a basketball player performing at the highest level, just really being an American citizen, learning how to survive during those tough times, and really experience, like he said, he experienced some good times in Milwaukee. What do you think are some of the things that we can sit back and we can look at and just say thank you for? What are some of the things you look at that Mr. Dandridge and many brought to the game that you really see as really a thank you and giving these guys their flowers for their sacrifices?
For me, I think it just they gave opportunity. Everybody had an opportunity to either play at not only at a HBCU but at a Power 5. Your Duke, your North Carolina, your Kentucky. And that they never would have thought would have happened. They opened those doors for the future generation to do. And then you look at it from the NBA standpoint, how they taught players not only like you can not to be players, but be men, be functional men in today in society that was segregated. I don't know about y'all, but do you understand how hard it would be to do our job if we were still segregated in today's time?
And at the highest of his abilities, right now we're just waiting on Mr. Dandridge to come back in. He's having some slight technical difficulties.
I want to hear more his stories, man. His stories are amazing. Just to pick his brain.
Now, while we're waiting on Mr. Dandridge, if you're in the chat, you can tap in with us or whatnot. Now, I want to hear what folks have to say right now because while we're waiting on him, let's talk about it. He literally just ended the barbershop argument.
I don't think he ended it. I just think he added a little bit of notch to it. Cause to this day, people are going to say. Because to me, I thought Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the ultimate winner. Because he have won so much basketball. If you go to his high school day, the college, with Mr. Wooden,
Memorial,
to Mr. Wooden, then you go to his Milwaukee day, to his Lakers day. The man had won more than he's lost.
Think about it.
I'm just saying.
High school championship in New York, national championships multiple national championships at UCLA,
exactly.
And then you have one championship with the Bucks. You got 5. You got a couple with the Lakers, and
you got 4
honestly,
with the Lakers.
Think about it: 5 championships, and he's played in a ton of NBA finals during his career and dominated.
You just
it's
can't.
only one. No, it's only one player that ever gave Kareem fits, and Mr. Dandridge is going to probably talk about him too. And he's one of my favorite centers of all time, Moses Malone, another Virginia boy.
B.
So when you really look at it, we're just waiting for Mr. Dandridge to get back on. So if you guys want to tap in the chats, please tap in. We definitely are enjoying the stories that Mr. Dandridge is telling right now. And if you look at his playing days and you just see what he was around, you understand why he was great. You understand why he's in the Hall of Fame.
The level of competition he had to play with, it's insane what he had to go against. He had to go against Larry Bird. He had to come
We
in.
got you back.
Well,
Yeah,
welcome
you
back,
got me
Harold.
back. I'm back.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
We was having too much fun.
Yes,
Your
sir.
phone said, "Hey, we want you. We tired of you talking about your glory days, man. It's time for us to rest." No, we want it. We want the glory days. We want to talk.
Yeah, come back.
But but we appreciate the honesty that you gave and being transparent with, that question, because a lot of people don't ever talk about it. And I make it a point, and most people don't care, but I care. It's a few of us that care, and I make it a point as being a host that I'm going to keep, even though I cover the Falcons, talk about them, regardless, I'm going to keep HBCU legends alive. I'm going to keep these stories going. Your legacies is pretty much what these kids in the NBA are playing off of right now. A lot of
for sure.
They don't think about it. You had to work a regular job, and I talked to Mr. Larry Little and other pro athletes I've talked to from back in the day. They all said we all had to work jobs in the off season and stay in shape because the money wasn't like it is now.
The money isn't like it. The money is different, but I say everything was relevant because my first contract, and I was happy. They paid me $17,000 my rookie year in the NBA. And to me, in my mind, that was just like making $600,000 or $700,000 now, because I know if I went back to Norfolk and I was a social worker, I was gonna make $5,100 a year. So I keep everything in perspective. The first Benz I bought, I paid $17,000 for it. That same vehicle is a $500,000 a year. I mean, a $500,000 car. So I keep everything in perspective. The TV revenue is so much different now. That's what drives it. And then these guys, young guys now, they start making sacrifices they play AAU ball traveling around the country at 9 years old. They traveling 4 months a year, and that's not easy. And so I think this generation, they put in more work than we did in terms of the conditioning, the sacrifices that the parents make, because my pops never went to a game till I went to college. Never took me to a game. I had to hitchhike or walk to a game. I mean, if there was no AAU, there was summer league, and your summer league coach might pile 10 guys in a car to go across town to play a game. So I think the sacrifices is not only on the athlete, but his entire family. When I see a kid playing AAU ball and he's going to Vegas, Chicago, that's money that families got to come up with. So I think everything is balanced, I think. So the young guys that are getting paid nowadays, they working for that money. And remember, everybody on the team is not making 20 million and above a year. because you got the guys that's riding the bench. They right at 4 or 5. So some things are out of balance. But I take my hat off to the young guys now that are playing because they make tremendous sacrifices also.
Okay. And let's transition to a little championship, and then we're going to also transition to a few other things. And it's awesome listening to you tell these stories. I don't get tired.
I can't get enough of this, man. I ain't gonna lie.
You're a hell of a storyteller, Mr. Dandridge.
Yes, sir. I can't get enough of this.
Isaiah Thomas wasn't lying about you when he said that on NBA TV. He said, if you ever want to hear the truth, sit back and listen to Bill Russell or Bob Dandridge tell a story. They ain't gonna lie to you.
Who said that?
Isaiah Thomas. Zeke.
Oh yeah. There's Zeke, good guy. And when I went to Washington, left Milwaukee, went to Washington. I didn't know when I went there that they was bringing me there solely for a purpose of winning a championship. I thought I was just going to go to D.C., play a little ball, hang out, be in Chocolate City with the other brothers and sisters and enjoy D.C. and Baltimore and be close to my hometown of Richmond. But then after about 2 or 3 days there, it struck me, Wes Unseld let me know that, hey, you're supposed to be the deliverer here now. We supposed to be winning a championship with you coming in here. Because, Wes told you the truth. And, they had been getting beat to death in the playoffs for years. And so I said, okay, I understand it. And, here I'm coming there with Wes, Elvin Hayes, Phil Chenier, Kevin Greavy out of Kentucky, Mitch Kupchak out of Carolina.
What was it like playing with Wes and the Big E? Y'all another big three.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. I was blessed to keep a big three near. But this time it was different because the Bullets could not get past Philadelphia. Because Philly had Doc and they had McGinnis. And the sole purpose that they came after me was because I was the one guy that could keep Julius under wraps. The times that we played against each other, I was able to more than hold my own, and people were amazed. How can Bob Dandridge do anything with Doc? A couple of things. One, I was not going to stand below the free throw line and let him take off. That was number one. Number two was I was going to make him take the jump shot, but I was not going to let him bank it. And most important was I was going to make him have to play defense. And with that in mind, that was why the Washington Bullets made an effort to come and get me. And it worked out well for them because we knocked them off in the playoffs. And that same year, we had to deal with John Drew, Terry Furlow.
Good Lord.
And that was a tough group.
So you got to deal with my old school Hawk squad back in the day with those guys.
Oh yeah. Roundtree and
Lou Hudson,
Tree Rollins and all that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
and
Oh
and
my
and
goodness.
and see we and West had all they West and Elvin had just gotten beaten 4-0 by Golden State the year. So they was desperate for some help. And when I went in there, I was smart enough. I don't want to. I don't want to be the number one guy. I don't want to. I don't want to be the leading scorer. I don't want to be a leading rebound. Just let me fit in and make everybody else better. And I'll take the tough defensive assignments. In the playoff, Gervin had 35 on Kevin Greavy, and we still had a full quarter to go.
Oh Lord.
And
You
and
talking about
Greavy
the
himself
Iceman.
and Greavy himself asked me, "Will you please come over here?"
Great. The
So
Iceman,
wait a
George
minute. So wait a
Gardner.
minute. So
So
so the
and
Iceman
that
was hitting him
championship
with that
team,
finger roll the whole time, wasn't he?
The patented finger
he
roll.
was hitting them. He was hitting them with everything that was in the baseball bag: the bat, the glove, the ball.
Oh man.
Man, that wild. Kerr, I
But
have a question. I have a question, Kerr. I have a question.
yeah,
Uh, on that Washington team, when you were in the NBA final, game 7,
Mm.
when y'all had an 11-point lead and they got it down to 4, then all of a sudden they got it down to 2, 101 to 99. And of all people, Wes Uphill got fouled and he had to go to that free throw line.
yes.
What? And he hit those 2 clutch free throws.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, you got the steal and the dunk that pretty much sealed the game. How was that? How did you feel after that dunk? What was the moment like when especially when Wes Uphill was at the free throw line, because he was only a 55% free throw shooter during the finals.
Nervous, nervous, but yet somewhat confident because it was just like a guy like West to make the free throws. I mean, because I doubt if he was nervous. The only thing that he complained about was he getting ready to shoot the free throw. And normally Lenny Wilkins would have called timeout.
Mm-hmm.
But Big Motta called. and West said normally the opposing coach would call the timeout if I'm getting ready to shoot a free throw, but his own coach called the timeout. But my mind was that West is gonna make this because it was due time for him to be on a championship team. You know, and it was due for Elvin because they among the top 50 players that ever played the game, and with the careers they had never won a championship. So it was fate, and it was just time for them to be champions. Me dunking that ball was something out of the extraordinary because I probably never dunked the ball any more than 5 times in my entire NBA career.
Mm.
And so, and you notice it was with 2 hands because I really didn't get that high off the ground. but I knew with this type of accomplishment at last that I owed it to basketball to dunk that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
And
Man, that
and
was
and winning the championship in DC was just unbelievable because it was the first major sports championship in the city. And you you know to and the parade itself, our owner had the insight to make it a community parade. You know, a lot of times cities have these championship parades through the affluent neighborhoods and the downtown areas. Mr. Poland brought that that parade through the inner city of Washington, D.C. was the route that it took before it turned on to Capitol Hill with all the government federal buildings and stuff. So it was real special when you can see our people get exposed to a championship and they are a part of it. And 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 of all the ceremonies, parades going to the White House, the thing that still sticks out in my mind is going through the inner cities of DC and seeing the young kids, 7 and 8 years old, the grandmothers, the grandfathers sitting on the front porches, and to see them get a taste of what a championship looks like. And that still sticks out in my mind, and that's on par with Wes Unsell's free throws, with my dunk, with all of it. That the route that parade took when we celebrated in Washington.
Beautiful, man. That's beautiful.
And all you do is just think about it, because when you talk about the DC area, they haven't won a championship in basketball since you guys. The only thing that's been keeping them relevant at this point is they were the Washington Redskins. They're the Commanders now. They got back to the NFC Championship game, and they're possibly going back. So really, you guys will forever be DC royalty because you guys gave them a championship, because the last championship that was around that area was the old Washington Redskins with George Preston Marshall when he was an owner back in the day. So for you guys to bring that in, that was amazing. And what was it like to play with Big E and Wes Unseld, and how do you feel when people mention you as one of the best forwards of the 70s, or really one of the best forwards of the game? Because as I said before we got on, Mr. Dandridge, the person that reminds me after looking at your footage and seeing him is Kawhi Leonard. If he's not hurt and he's healthy, he's a great two-way player. And you see he's not a talker. He lets his game do the talking. But the athletic ability and what you guys do is real similar on how y'all can shoot, lock people down, and do what you do. But what was it like playing with Wes Unseld and Elvin Hayes, and then just being mentioned as one of the greatest forwards of the 70s? And really in the game.
It was fun playing with them. It was real fun because we all had played like 10, 12 years, and it was just fun to be with some guys that have spent time in the league, and Elvin was supposed to be like somewhat of a prima donna because he was always scoring a lot of points. But he and I got along great because I didn't have to be the leading scorer to be the most important component on a team. I knew that. I knew that I could have an impact. And I had already won a championship, so I knew what it felt like. And my commitment became to help these two guys get to the championship also. And not only to get to the championship, but to win it. And a lot of times during during that season, we didn't have a great regular season because we had injuries, but we came together at the right time. And it was my responsibility to perform well in the clutch situations, be it the important shot, be it defensively. And playing with Wes and Elvin allowed me to come full circle with my game to be a leader. Because I played with Oscar and Kareem in Milwaukee, but that was a learning curve for me. Although I averaged a bunch of points at Norfolk State, it's different in the NBA. You got to learn when to pick your spots. You can't just go all out all the time. And playing with Oscar and Kareem prepared me to go to Washington. So when I went to Washington with Elvin and Wes, I was excited once I got there because they had great work ethics. I mean, I would miss days off of practice because of minor injuries, but Elvin and Wes were true professionals and they practiced hard every day. Wes had bad knees, and it was nothing for them to drain his knees, to drain the blood out of a swollen knee, and this guy would still go out there and play 40 minutes. And one thing that I said, we roasted Wes one year, and I said that if I had to pick a guy who I wanted to play a championship game with, and that player was injured, it would be Wes Unseld. I mean, and everybody said, well, what about Kareem? Kareem. I said, not if Kareem is injured. But if you got to play on a bum knee, give me Wes Unseld every time.
And speaking of the big fella, because once I show this clip, I got a few more questions we're gonna ask you, and then we're gonna wrap the interview up or whatnot. This is what we're talking about when we speak on Wes Unseld making a play at the end of the game that capped off the championship with Mr. Bob Dandridge.
It began 8 months ago.
Fair you.
Countdown. They must shoot quickly. It is in and out. Unseld with control. It is about to end. Bobby Dandridge. He will be our most valuable player. Bobby Dandridge voted the CBS most valuable player here in the NBA Championship Series. And the celebration can begin in Washington. Dick Motta and Bernie Bickerstaff are embracing over there as the Washington Bullets jubilantly file off the floor. And
ladies and gentlemen, that was the play that Mr. Dandridge was speaking of, where he ended the game for a championship. So I apologize about the picture, but that's the 70s. That was how it was looking. But it was amazing to just see the man that you just talked about literally just snatched the rebound, just toss it, was quick with it, and watched you run down the court, and you lived up to your nickname, the Greyhound, that was given to you by Mr. Eddie Doucette.
Yeah,
I found a little tidbit out for you. Oh yeah.
Greyhound. What a nickname! What a nickname!
Well, I mean, he was as fast as one, like Mr. Dandridge. I'm gonna be honest with you. The camera couldn't really keep up with you because it was a blur watching you run. It was a blur. So for me, and here's the question I got for you, because I got a couple of questions and I know Glenn's got some more. When you look at it, you played in 98 playoff games. You averaged 20 points per game in the playoffs. This was your average. What drove you in these games, playoffs and finals? What drove you to just say, win or lose, you're going to know you was in a fight with me in this game, and I'm just going to show up and show out? And no one could ever do anything with you in the postseason.
It was the competition and the excitement of being in the playoffs. And I say that a player's career is missing something if you never play in a NBA Finals. If you play 20 years in this league and you never play in a finals, you are missing. It's a big void in your career. Playing in the playoffs are just fantastic. I mean, you can't explain it. When you travel around the league and you're playing regular season games, after the games, you're hanging out with your boys, y'all socializing. But when the playoffs come, you be like, look, man, I'll catch you this summer when this playoffs is over, because I got some work to do. And one guy that impacted me the most about playoffs and tough games was John Havlicek. I mean,
man.
maybe my fourth year in the league, we played Boston in a 7-game series. And guarding him, it was like every night I just couldn't go back. I couldn't do nothing but go back to the room and go to sleep, because the level of competition in the playoffs is no joke. I mean, it's just hard to explain. It's just difficult to explain, but it's exciting. And the playoffs, you playing against the best of the best. All the garbage is gone. You know, all the mediocre players, they back at home. So when you get in those last 2 rounds, I'm playing against the best 4 forwards in my division or in the league. And you want to excel. You want to be known as the best. And I never bragged, but I knew that I was laying down work. You mentioned Bob Love. We battle like cats and dogs. 2 HBCU guys going at each other. Y'all can't even imagine the trash that we was talking. Because it was like Southern versus Norfolk State. It won't Chicago versus Milwaukee. This is like the SWAC versus the CIAA. And that battle was more.
Hey, I'm supporting you tonight, but it's swag all day, every day over here, Mr. Dandridge. Hey, I'm a swag boy, baby. Southern you. But you know what though? I look at your career when you were on the court, you know, Hall of Fame for Virginia Sports 1992. You end up in the NBA Hall of Fame. I feel like they took too long for you to
It did.
and you know what? And you're all right to it. And then I look at it like this, Mr. Dandridge. You got into coaching for a couple of years from 87 to 92 at Hampton.
Yeah.
What makes you give back to the community of the DMV area like you do? And you just, when I met you at the CIAA tournament, I'll admit it, ladies and gentlemen, I don't get starstruck. I'm just gonna be honest. I got put in a bad situation, and Coach, I know you watching this, but I got to tell on you. Coach he said, "Hey, go over there." He said, "Go over there. I want you to talk to Bob Dandridge. Tell him I sent you over there. Let him know I used to give him." He said, "I let him know I used to give him that work back in the day too." And I just remember when I said that to you, you were sitting down, you were just very calm. You looked at me, you said, "I'll talk to you, young man, but make sure you let him know he's in the Hall of Fame for track and field, and I'm in the Hall of Fame for basketball, and we'll leave it like that." That was the trash talk that happened. I was a middleman. And he laughed when I went back and told him that. He said, "Bob is an awesome guy." He said, he said, that's just a little, he said, it's just a little something we got to ruffle each other's feathers every once in a while. What makes you give back to the community the way that you do? And this is part of the community because I'm a young up and comer with my crew, and you give back to so many and you do it so willingly. Like what does it mean to give back to people and just be able to touch their lives? You damn sure touched my granddad's pockets, helping him win some money before in your playing days.
You know, because the community has given so much to me. And I probably and I do things just from my heart because that's the way I was raised. That's just who I am. And as I get older, people remind me of things that I did for them during my younger day. I got a guy that's a city councilman here in Norfolk, and when we won the championship up in Baltimore, he was outside the locker room, and I got him and 3 other guys from Norfolk. They celebrated they were in the locker room with the big old Kareem. Once they got in the locker room, they ain't paid no attention to me. But these guys to this day remember that. And you know, even when I traveled around the league my first couple of years, you didn't necessarily, if you went to a HBCU, you could have gone to Tennessee State, could have gone to Meharry, you could have gone to Purdue, you could have gone to Winston-Salem, A&T, Virginia Union. When I was coming off, when you're coming off the floor as a player or when you're playing, you really don't hear the fans. Mm-hmm. But if I'm coming off the court and you say Bob Dandridge, I might not look. But if you say CIAA, Hampton University, Elizabeth City, I'm going to stop and try to find you in the crowd. So, you know, so many people have poured so much into me, and I feel I want to give back because I want the next generation of people in our community to do well, to prosper, and if I can say a word to encourage somebody, and you know, because I've been blessed beyond my wildest dreams, and I'm blessed every day. You know, I'm 77 years old. I'm basically walking upright without a limp. I'm able to play some tennis, play some golf, walk a dog. I mean, I didn't do this by myself. I didn't get to be Bob Dandridge all by myself.
Oh, Mr. Dandridge, man, I could just look into you all day with these stories. One of my last questions that I have is for the upcoming rookies that's getting ready to come into the NBA. What would be one of the things you would tell them on making their approach to the NBA?
Be coachable. 1, be in the best possible shape that you can be in, and do not hang with the veterans. Do not hang with the veterans. Leave them veterans alone. And when you sit on the bench, do not sit at the end of the bench. Sit as close to the coach as you can. And when he stand up to make a substitution, you're looking right at it. Do not hang with them veterans, and do not sit at the end of the bench, and be in the best possible shape that you can be in. If practice is at 10 o'clock, no, you get there by 9:45.
And the question I got for you, it's a loaded one, so I'm definitely gonna let you talk on this one. The CIAA tournament is coming up. I'm definitely gonna try to get down there like I did this year because I definitely gotta shake your hand again and just thank you for just doing this interview. But when you look at the way that the game has changed from when you played to what it is like now, and then you also look at how society has changed and the pressures that these young players don't face like you faced back in the day, what is it that you try to impart on the young folks that have garnered a lot of funds, they've garnered a lot of endorsement deals, TV time, and just so many things that you guys fought, clawed, and scratched for? How do you try to relate to them with showing appreciation to the older generation? Because a lot of players now, they all try to say, oh well, they played against plumbers and all, they weren't real athletes. But what do you say to these young guys that say that, and how do you relate to these guys now?
The guys that say that type of stuff, they aren't consistent stars anyway.
Mm.
Most of them have had a good year or two. To tell you the truth, I mean, uh, they just have no respect for the foundation that was set there. But then this is how they were brought up, if I can say that. But
Yes, you can
but
say whatever
but
you want on here, Mister
Uh-huh.
but
Mister Dandridge.
but the true superstars, when you look at a Kobe, would never say that. I don't think uh, Akeem Olajuwon would
Uh-uh.
never say
Mm-mm.
anything like that. I don't think Tim Duncan would say anything like that.
Uh-uh.
Nope.
And so, just like I said, being in the Hall of Fame ain't just about basketball. It's some character that has to accompany that. And I
Mm.
think that for the few, I'm not gonna let the few that run off at the mouth and disrespect the foundation that has been placed let me have a negative opinion of the current players, because um, I've had an opportunity to be in the company of current players. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm not in the top 75, but I'm well respected for the work that I did as a player. And a lot has to do is how we former players carry ourselves around the younger guys. I'm not trying to dress like a current NBA player. I'm gonna show up looking like I'm a former player, dressed conservatively and doing well. So I think that the guys that might try to demean the foundation that was set, then they sort of disappointed with some of their accomplishments.
Mm.
Uh-huh.
So,
Preach.
but hey, I let everybody say whatever they want to say, because I had to lay cool for about 35 years past the time that I should have been in the Hall of Fame.
I agree.
Agree, sir.
And and waiting and showing humility is a lot of fun. I
Mm.
mean, I've never tooted my horn, but deep inside, I never verbally trash talk, but deep inside, I'm out there talking buku trash if I know that I got the upper hand on you. And that's the way we trash talk. How Swagger did the trash talking.
Boy.
If I'm
And on that
if
note,
I'm
that's a mic drop. So
hey, look, if I'm toasting you, I don't need to say a word.
Cheers.
I'm gonna say this respectfully, as my grandfather would say, a quiet ass whooping is the worst ass whooping you can take.
You ain't lying.
That's what my grandfather told me. He said if they don't, he said if they talk to you, he said this is what you do. You don't ever start it, but when you start working, he said you ain't got to sit there and talk a whole bunch of trash. He said you throw a little something at him like, hey, where you at? Because I was a defensive back, so I was a safety. So dealing with wide receivers, quarterbacks, and those type of individuals, you had to hear their mouths. Oh yeah, I'm gonna toast you on this next one.
Oh
as soon as they come across. I thought you was toasting me. I see you down there eat some grass, just like you. Somebody will talk. Now, last question. I know I said that was gonna be my last one, but see, now you made me think.
This is the last one.
Yep, this is the last one.
You hit it.
With Larry Bird, did he ever trash talk you? Because he trash talked everybody in the league, from what I was told.
No. Very few. I can't remember anybody coming. See, because these guys were coming after me. They were younger, so they were behind me. And I was the one that they looked up to because I'm the star in the league. They in college, so they mimicking my moves. So when they come in the league, I got the upper hand. The two guys that let me know it was time for me to leave the league was Marcus Johnson and the Davis guy. What's the Davis guy name out of Phoenix?
Walter Davis,
Lord. When them two came, I said, you know what, Dandridge? You got about another 2 years and this is going to be over because they ain't going to let you keep holding these guys. But when they came in, that was when I was on the top of the league, so they had to get their indoctrination then too. But
baptize them.
But you know, guys like Bird and stuff, you know, they were in college and they were watching me. And I can remember the first time I ran into Julius. He was with the Virginia Squires coming in for rookie camp, and I'm working out, getting ready to go back to Milwaukee, and everybody, all my homeboys here were teasing me. They say, man, we got somebody for you this week, the doctor coming in. And I'm like, who is the doctor? Who is Julius Irvin? Because I'm in about my third or fourth year in the NBA. I don't know nothing about no college guys. You know, so everything happens for a reason, and you know, I've been blessed, and I've enjoyed talking to y'all tonight.
Well, we definitely appreciate you coming through tonight.
Oh yes. My God, it's been an honor.
So I'll definitely, like I said, I'm gonna talk to Coach Williams and whatnot. I'm gonna see about the CIAA tournament because I know you're a regular fixture there. Yeah. I definitely am gonna try to meet up with you down at the CIAA tournament, but I'll get at you tomorrow because I got something I want to give you for just doing the show for us, and we definitely appreciate that, sir.
Oh man, there have been the stories you can tell, man. I could just pick through this all day.
So we thank you for coming through, Mr. Derrick. Just have a good night.
Thanks for having me, and the best with y'all, and God bless y'all.
Yeah,
thank you, Mr. Derrick. Just have a good one.
Later.
Boy, man, we just had one of the legendary players in the NBA literally come through here. Just saying.
That was greatness right there, man. That was greatness.
I'm sitting here just enjoying the fact that, as he said before, so for everybody that gets in barbershop talks with these young cats and everybody else or whatnot, man, all you can say is wow. Wow. That's all you can say at this point is wow, because he killed the Jordan, he destroyed the Jordan and LeBron debate with Kareem. And then he pretty much says, well, if they think we plumbers or whatnot, we don't get in the Hall of Fame for nothing. So again, that man got two. Think about it. That man has 2 championship rings in every team that he's played on, from college on to the pros. He was a major contributor to winning championships.
Four-time All-Star.
Nobody can top that. Outside of being a 4-time All-Star, NBA All-Rookie defense, first team. And all I can say is at this point, wow. The career speaks for itself. So we definitely appreciate everybody for stopping through and listening. We have some more NBA legends. We got some NFL legends we're working on right now that we have in the cut. And we got a college cat that's coming through, my former teammate. I'm not going to mention him yet. He played for Ohio State during the years that they were going to the championship, playing at LSU in Florida at the time. But we'll let him tell that story. But the next guest that we're going to have on is going to be March the 6th. We got Mr. Wally Jones coming into the building. Former Philadelphia 76er who helped the 76ers win a championship in 1967 back in the day. Shout out to Mr. Jones. We were at Mr. Walt Hazzard's pretty much induction into the Delaware Hall of Fame. He was born in Delaware, moved from Delaware as a kid to Philly and became a Philly legend at the legendary Overbrook High School. So again, all I'll say is this, man. When you look back at it, some of these guys got stories for days, and some of the stuff that they tell definitely can let you in on some insight. So we got some stuff coming for you.
Make you appreciate everything.
So during this offseason, man, please tune in to the Birdcage LLC. Yes, we talk Falcons football, but the On the Perch segment is what you just saw. We bring in all athletes, coaches, journalists into the building. But tonight was special because all I can say is we got a CIAA legend in the house and a Norfolk State legend in the house. So definitely appreciate that. So thank y'all for being in the chat tonight. Great bid. I appreciate the work that you put in tonight, my boy. We definitely are going to do it again soon.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So y'all make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe button. If you're not subscribed, hit the like button on the way out. Help us keep this great content coming to you guys day in, day out, night in, night out, man. We got you covered. We got some Falcon stuff we're going to talk about next week. Maybe this weekend we might have a pop-up show. Who knows? So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Hug your families. Tell them you love them. And again, shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles. They did their thing, but guess what? Our Falcons beat them. So we got some bragging rights this year. Look, we didn't win a championship, but I can at least stand back and say, well, y'all lost to us at home. So it is what it is. We'll talk to you guys later. We'll catch y'all on another episode of On the Perch. Y'all have a good night. Peace.